we'll make a start with the looking down images. So we've got 12 images to do, and then the top 5. We'll see how well we go with time, but the chances are we'll probably be finished before the 9 o'clock. So I don't even remember, we did say that we would only run until until it sort of naturally comes to an end. So let me just make sure I pick the right. So can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing.
How is that? Oh,
Spiral staircase.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen one a little bit similar to this before. So the competition title of Looking Down, I sort of had a preconception in my head of what the sort of images might be that we'll see. And when I saw the images arrive, I get them on a Tuesday evening to download from Ian, and yeah, quite some quite different perspectives in there. So we'll start obviously with this one. So definitely looking down through this spiral staircase. We've got an interesting lead in. I think we've seen one similar to this before back at the club, and the photographer, it might have been this one or it might have been similar to it, but the photographer's taken quite a lot of care to bring the steps into these bottom corners, so you get the full width of the first step there, and that then does tend to pull your eye in and draw your eye around this quite dynamic shape, this corner, this as it sort of spirals down and over to the right, which again, it's quite natural for the eye to flow that way, left to right. So I find it quite a nice composition, in that your eye does sort of follow this line through to this bit of greenery here and back to this bright area in the bottom right corner. So I think compositionally it works. It certainly works, I think, for looking down, because the camera's perspective looking down through this staircase. And although it's got the holes in it, because it's quite dark underneath, you get those quite sharp dynamic lines, those the grid of the steps, those bright highlights of the metal against the dark shadowed sort of underneath the stairs, I think really makes these lines quite contrasty and quite sharp to the eye, and it's quite engaging. The photographer's done well to keep highlights to a minimum. There is this bright area in the bottom corner, but you can see detail in there. It's not blown out. You can still see the texture of the metal in there. So good technique. I like the way that it's hard to tell the focal length that's been used with this one, but I like the way that it does fill the frame completely, and maybe the photographer's got down, closer to the first step. Either that, or they've zoomed the lens to get to fill that frame. Little bit of the handrail, I think, works just to add a little bit to the story there, and with this this bit of gorse or something coming through the railings there. So obviously outdoors, maybe a bright day, good exposure, nice and sharp. I think it works well. And this one belongs to Chris. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
That's right. Thank you. So the next one.
Was it at Heartlands?
It was, Ken, yes.
I think so.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see if we can. Right, so there you go. So that's your next one.
Okay, no prizes for guessing where that is then.
Where is it?
Skegness. Yeah, it's obviously again, it fits the brief. We're looking down there, looking down at the monkey hut there on the quite a stormy day by the look of it. Nice to see the sort of, well, the wind on catching the top of the wave and taking that that off there. I don't know, might be. I'm just wondering at the time of the timing of the shot, maybe half a second later to get the wave crashing over the top. But yeah, appreciate it's a difficult one to get into time. It's nice that the way the pier there sort of juts out from the corner into the center of the picture on the diagonal. That sort of draws you in, and then you've got that sort of the white monkey hut there on the end, which again draws the eye to it. And I think the top of the wave, the way you've got the water at the top of the wave and the wind blowing the spray off the top, sort of holds you into the picture towards the top. There's maybe a little bit of dead space towards the right as you look at it, but I can see that you couldn't really do much about cropping that off without spoiling the composition generally, with the monkey hut there on the third. Yeah, nice shot taken with a long lens from the top of the hill, no doubt. Whose is that one?
So this one belongs to Dave.
Yeah, it's spot on. It's taken reasonably early into lockdown, and it was a very windy and rainy day, so you couldn't stay long because you were right on the edge of the cliff.
Okay. Yeah, you certainly get the drama of the weather, don't you? You can certainly see just how windy it was on that day and how stormy the sea was.
Yeah, I mean, even though the wave isn't actually breaking over the monkey hut, you've got the you've captured the essence of the storm sort of brewing, and well, not it's brewed, hasn't it? It's coming in.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't like to be in there.
You can almost feel how hard that wave is going to hit the end of that pier in a second or so, can't you? Yeah.
I imagine you did well to hold the lens sort of steady at that as well. It looks like the wind was blowing some.
It was quite windy and raining, so yeah, I didn't want to hang around too much.
No, absolutely. No, thank you.
I don't know how other people felt when they were voting, but the first question I asked myself when I went through the images was, what would I say this image is if I didn't know the theme? And I felt there's a few images like this one. It's not criticism. I think it is on theme, but it's loosely on theme in the sense of, if you showed this to someone, would they think looking down? I don't know how other people felt when they were voting, but that's what sort of went through my mind when I saw quite a few of the shots. They just didn't scream sort of looking down.
I can see what you're saying, but I mean, having said that, it is on theme. It is looking down towards the monkey hut.
Okay. Let's... So again, this one, it is looking down, i.e., you are looking down into that cove from this one, but again, it's maybe not quite that obvious that the subject is the cove down there. I guess the subject could be the turquoisey sort of water, the aqua blue of that water, and how clear it is. So maybe that was the point at which the photographer thinks of drawing the viewer's eye down into that, using that colour to draw the eye. There's some nice framing. We've got that little bit of land at the foreground at the bottom, just to set the foreground, so that you've then got a foreground, a middle ground with the cove, and then the background with the face of that rock. I quite like the height it's been taken in, that the horizon line then is put above that rock, just to give a bit more layering, so that rock is placed against the deeper blue of the sea in the background, keeping the fairly mundane sky to a minimum. harsh light, so you can see the photographer's done well to stop things from blowing out. You can see just how sharp edged the shadows are there in that, and there's a lot of detail in that shadow as well. But you can see it was taken on in quite a harsh light, with the light maybe coming from over the photographer's right shoulder, perhaps. But yeah, I wonder whether it is all strong enough on the theme of looking down. The difficulty with using a wide-angle lens like this is that if that is the subject down there, it's a long way away. That wide-angle lens will make everything look really far in the distance, and I don't know whether you could make it sort of more obvious by having a little bit of foreground and then making most of the picture there the subject, like that, so that it's quite obvious that you're then looking down into this area. I don't know. I think maybe there's another crop in there, perhaps, other than that one. But this one is Jason's.
Yeah, I quite like that shot actually. I think having that thrift and the bit of land at the bottom is quite important, because I think that helps to sort of frame the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And I do like those sort of concentric rings that you've got with the the wave and the different colours of sand, and then the different colours of blue in the water as well. So I think that works quite well.
And it is on theme because it's looking down.
It is looking down. Yeah.
Yeah, it was taken down at Owl's Mouth a couple of months ago, and it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoonish. So the wall's quite hard light. There's the sun was shining across there. And as for the few flowers and things at the bottom there, I couldn't do anything about that anyway, because they were about 6 inches in front of my feet. If I went any further, I'd have been off the cliff. So.
I don't know, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you need that foreground at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I just wondered whether you could lose a little bit at the top, but I don't know. Like you say, it does, as Brian said, certainly with the different colours of the sand and everything.
I did shoot some on my, I shot it with my 60D, and I popped the screen up, I put it on a pole, and I held the camera out over the cliff.
Oh, right.
I shot it down, but when I got them back, I wasn't holding it still enough. The wind was just catching it, and nothing was coming back sharp. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, interesting to try though. Yeah, okay, thank you. So this is the next one. I guess I'll do this one in a minute. Another take on the theme of looking down. So in this case, rather than the camera's perspective looking down, obviously the model is looking down, and quite obviously so, the head tilt is such that she is obviously, and the eye position is obviously looking down, and interesting placement of the hand as well. I think that works quite well. I like the way that the exposure on the hand and the face is almost the same, which normally you would want the face slightly brighter than the hand, but because this is such a tight crop, the hand is touching the face, it almost becomes part of it. So I think lighting it in that way really works, and you can see the angle of the light is key, that you've got this shadow under the finger, which then defines it and doesn't merge the same the same brightness in with the cheek. Yeah, it's a really interesting composition with the hand on that angle, the same angle as the face. The hand and the finger almost are a pointer drawing your eye to her eyes, which are then looking down. So you've got all of these angles going on where you're drawn in. Whoops, mouse is hitting it. You're drawn in up through here, and then this sort of thing, and then your eye naturally sort of comes back to the start and goes up through here again. So I think that works really well. Whoops, let me just come out of that. So yeah, and being black and white, you remove any color, any distraction. There is a little bit of separation used skillfully there with her head, because it's obviously dark hair on a dark background. So just that little bit of separation stops her merging into the background. You can even see a little bit of detail in her hair here. But that sort of simplified composition with the lack of colour, and then that quite bright, almost bordering on overexposed light, really draws your eye and really makes it quite compelling. Your view is to her eyes, and then you almost follow her gaze, what she's looking at, and you come back around. Yeah, it's a really well done image, and it'll be no surprise to you that this one belongs to Brian. Would you like to add anything to that, Brian?
No, not really. I placed her there deliberately on the diagonal, and with the hand coming from the bottom corner leading up to the eye. And yeah, I think you've said it all, really.
Yeah, really, it's broad lighting rather than short lighting, which again is unusual for a female, but obviously done to great effect because you want to light the hand and the broad side of the face, the camera side of the face. Yeah, it's really skillful lighting. The lighting placement is absolutely critical in this shot, isn't it?
Yeah, it took 1 or 2 shots to get it as I wanted. I still think she's actually pressing into the skin too hard with that finger. But
yeah,
that's the best of what we got.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wonder whether though the shadow might not have been so strong if she didn't press so hard. So maybe it works in that way. But yeah, awesome. Right, yeah. So the next one is that one.
Do you want me to do this one, or are you?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't know if you'd want to do your own. Sorry, that was why I.
No, I'd rather not.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean we've got a double image going on here, really, because we've got the picture of this person who is looking down towards the bottom right, and then reflected in the sunglasses, you've got another image which is also looking down on top of the engine house there at Wheel Coats. So this is, I like this because it's quite clever. Again, you've got that diagonal line which leads up to the glasses, and then you tend to follow the way that the eyes are looking, and it drags you into the image where the engine house is. Maybe just a pity the head wasn't tilted slightly more towards the camera, so you could get the engine house more fully in the glasses on the right hand side. But I'm prepared to forgive that. It must have been a tricky shot to get. This, I like this because it's very creative. It works well in color as well. It might even work better in black and white. It'd be interesting to see what it was like in black and white. But it certainly works as it is.
Yeah, it's a really interesting shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
This one belongs to Ian.
Anything to add, Ian? No, I didn't take it with a theme in mind. It was one of the first walks we did as a family after sort of restrictions got lifted, and she stood still, and I just thought, oh, that's interesting. To really highly reflective sunglasses, and just took a shot. And it wasn't until I was trying to find images for looking down that I thought, oh, that might work. Yeah.
I think it certainly works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can't see any of the scene apart from that's reflected in the sunglasses. Really, it's it's interesting also the crop that you've used for that, just cropping tight on the face. It's almost a square crop. But,
yeah, well, she's got a bit of a double chin, so I had to take that out.
Cropped it out. But yeah, no, that's yeah, it works really well. Right, so the next one is this one. It's an angle I've not seen before. Would that be mullion, perhaps? I can't. No, I can't.
That's definitely mullion. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Not quite seen it from that angle before. So
that's where Brian went up to try and call the model, I think.
Yeah, it is up there.
Up
somewhere.
that side, don't it?
Yeah. Yes, I remember that well.
Yeah, so definitely looking down, and this one with the pier coming out on the left hand side, and that pier coming around the right and across the top, it does contain your eye into this space, which I think really helps. Your eye comes in here, as you say, you are looking down, you're looking at this colour, and this colour is all sort of framed by these walls. I like the way there's a little gap here, incidentally, so that these two don't meet on the left-hand side. But and then it's almost two shots. You've then got, you know, the rocks and the sea beyond, but because they are outside of this framing element down here at the bottom, they're very much secondary. Your eye just sort of wanders up there afterwards. I find my eye drawn into here, which I guess is the whole point of the image, because you want to be looking down, obviously. So yeah, I think that really works. We've got a good exposure. It's nice and sharp. I like the way there's some little people down here, which when you zoom in, you know, you can see. I thought there were people from the top, but I couldn't quite make them out. There, that just shows how high up that must be, or indeed the lens that's been used to take that. I didn't even spot those other ones on the far side there at first, you know. But
I wonder if that's almost the better shot though, the zoomed in just on the actual harbour itself.
Just in there.
Yeah, because it's not the photographer's fault, but I think if you look at the top half of the image, you've got the rock on the left, you've got the rock in the middle, and you've got the headland, which I think are three separate rocks, but because of the perspective, they sort of merge into one, and then that top half of the image just feels really heavy. Yeah, for a better word.
Yeah, and it would work as a
like that.
square.
Yeah, almost like that. It just,
yeah,
you still.
It would kind of work as a square crop.
Mm.
Yeah, that I think works quite well because it's constrained at the bottom and the top.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're definitely looking down, and you can see more of the people. Then there's even some people in the water there. But yeah, I think it's there's definitely another image within that image, which yeah, I think that works really well. So that one, I love the colour in that as well. That one belongs to Jason.
Yeah, I couldn't really get up much higher than where I was to look down on it, because I was pretty much at the highest point on the cliffs there, where I wouldn't lose the frame in the harbour. Yeah. And I could get out to it, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of resolution in that image, you could try a square crop of that one.
Crop.
Yeah. But, whoops, yes, that's good. Okay. So your next one is that one.
Yeah.
So heron looking down into Hiddy.
Yeah, we've got a heron, obviously. Yeah, looking down into the water, and you've got the reflection of the heron in the water itself, which I think does add to the image. It's on theme. It's looking down. Can we zoom in a little bit on the on the heron's head? Right. Okay.
Brian wants to see if the eye shot.
Yeah, I did just want to check on the focus, because it did look a bit fuzzy from further back, but I can see now it's fine. There's nothing. Yeah, we've got the eye nice and sharp there, and you've got the sort of fluffiness of the feathers, definitely. I'm just wondering if, again, like we've had with some of the others, if a tighter crop might have helped, but I wouldn't want to lose that reflection. But you seem to have an awful lot of sort of beach above the heron, with a lot of debris and crap in it, basically, which I think does detract a little bit from the image. But
I don't know that you could get it all in, so I'm only tiny. So
I wouldn't want to lose any of the reflection, because I think
probably get that.
Yeah, that might be a little bit better. It does give some space to the side of the heron as well, so it's looking into some open space there.
Yeah, I think
doesn't it look like the heron is bending down to get into the picture, though?
Yeah, I can see your point. It does look like that a little bit. Yeah.
Probably after a fish in there.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that white bit of debris just well above its wing shoulder area
Just
is
here,
unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Just-
It's a fairly
just
easy
there.
clone, I would have thought. I don't know.
Yeah, you can probably clone that out, but yeah, there's an awful lot of other bits of debris there which are a little bit distracting. But I mean, there's nothing much you can do about that when you take the photo. But it might have been worth cropping them out, or cloning them out rather. But it's quite difficult to get a shot like that. I know because I've tried and failed lots of times. So, I mean, whoever's taken it has done well to get the bird nicely in focus, and the detail in those feathers when you zoom in is quite amazing.
Mm. So this one belongs to James.
Yeah, mine. Yeah.
What was
Well, I couldn't crop it in any further because at A4, I did it in A4 crop. You see, so
Yeah.
you would have lost the reflection. So
Yeah.
You've been out with your toilet tent again?
it was amazing. You go down to Tiedi and there's a heron, which normally you just see squirrels and swans. So
Yeah, right.
No, Tahiti's are there quite a lot.
is he? Yeah.
The herons are there quite a lot.
Anyway, he
this
didn't
is-
seem to be very afraid. I took loads of shots. So.
This is at the lake at Tahiti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blimey.
Second pond you come to down.
Oh, okay, the second one, yeah. I mean, look at the detail in there. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I know I took the same image as well.
Is that much of a crop then, James?
No,
Blimey.
in fact, my 400 lens was too long.
Cool. Blimey.
That's how close he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, next.
There's a
Yeah,
cormorant
awesome.
there as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the next one.
A magpie.
Definitely.
Juvenile as well.
He's definitely looking down.
Eyes are sharp.
Yeah, right. That's all those feathers. And I guess what kind of engages the viewer here, certainly does for me, is the fact that he's landed on a cage and he's looking in, and you almost wonder what he's looking at. Something has obviously sparked his interest to land on the cage and to have a look down inside it.
Yeah,
So
the photographer has trapped his family in the cage.
yeah, that's it. So
Probably
it's straight away it starts to tell a story. So it's more than just capturing an image of the bird. It's a bird on an unusual subject. It's not on a branch or on the ground or whatever, being on this cage, and looking down into it starts to tell a bit of a story. I also like the way that the color of the cage and the color of these feathers work really well together as well. Stroke of luck there, but
That's the normal colour of them down.
yeah, absolutely. So very little to distract. You can see there are some bushes or trees or whatever in the background, but very, very soft, very out of focus, which kind of isolates the subject then. And an interesting crop as well. Nice bit of space to the right of the bird's head, which allows you to include this corner of the cage. If this is cropped afterwards, not in the camera, then there is a choice to be made about how much of this cage you include. It has chopped off the tail a little bit, but again, I don't really mind that, to be honest, because it's the subject is looking down and it's all about the eye, the beak, the head position. As the viewer, you're instantly sort of brought into this area up here. So yeah, I think it works really well. I like that. You could possibly even go a little bit tighter and come a little bit closer to the tail and a little bit closer to the head.
Yeah,
If you didn't want all of the background. So there's possibly another crop which is somewhere there, but no, that works really well. I like that. It's just it's done this again. I'll just have to come out in a second and go back in. It won't let me come out now. does that. So this one belongs to Ken.
It's not cropped at all.
Oh, okay. So that was in the camera like that.
That was how it came out of the camera, that size, and I chopped his tail off because I chopped his tail. I didn't realise when I took the shot
Sure.
that I actually chopped the tail off.
Yeah, but I suppose because you were looking at the head,
I've just
it's
lost
all about
it now.
Yeah, so it's coming up now. So it's all about that looking down, isn't it? You know.
Well, that's why I thought it was looking down, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was when we went away up to wherever we went. I can't remember the name of the place.
That was Samwell Valley, was it?
Yeah, something like that. And he just happened to be looking in this cage at something. I can't even remember what he was looking at. But
right. Yeah.
And he looked really scraggly because it was pouring down with rain as well.
Ah, okay.
That's what all the little bits are on the sides.
Ah, right. Yeah, yeah.
All around, sort of like the back of him and near his head and stuff.
Yeah. So somewhat opportunist shot, but
well, yeah, it was just there and
yeah. Really sharp though. Really sharp.
Very juvenile.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the next one.
Juvenile magpie.
Is that one?
Okay. So we've got a view here looking down from some sort of building, looking through some ironwork, nice patterns in the ironwork, towards, is that the Rotunda in Birmingham? In the middle there. I think it probably is. Somebody that's been to Birmingham. Yeah.
It's looking the same direction as James's picture, actually. That way, in that general direction behind James.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I like the way the building has been sort of framed in the middle of that piece of ironwork. It sort of draws you into that building because of the ironwork surrounding it. I'm just wondering though if maybe you cropped it closer to that circle, the large circle, and removed some of that extraneous stuff at the right hand side. If that might, and towards the bottom, yeah, that sort of thing, that might be a better image because you can see the view through there much better, and at the same time it gets rid of some of the detail to the left and to the bottom that I don't think really contributes to the image. And if you look at it like that as well, you've got the added advantage that you've got that road at the bottom coming in from the bottom and sort of spiraling in again towards the center. Yeah. So again, that's another sort of lead in for the eye. It's nicely exposed. I like the fact that you've got some detail there in the sky. It would have been very easy as well to underexpose that and get the ironwork in silhouette, but you've got a lot of the detail there in the ironwork. And you've managed to retain the detail in the sky and the clouds and things as well. So yeah, that's on theme. It works well. You've got a central sort of subject, a point of interest, and you've got that sort of natural, well, not natural frame, but the photographer's seeing the opportunity to create a frame from what's in the environment around. And yeah, I like that. It's a nice job. Pity it's Birmingham, really.
My only slight concern with it is because that building is framed within these pieces of metal, it is a very strong subject, but it's almost looking across rather than looking down. We're definitely looking down to the road, down in this bottom oval sort of corner. I just
perhaps that's why it wasn't done like it is now, and it was done the way it was done because it's more of looking down.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. But even then, they are little snippets down through here, whereas that's quite strong, being framed in that sort of.
Keeping it that way, you still look down to see what's in the other bits.
True. Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah. So this one belongs to.
It's Spence. It's Birmingham Library.
Ah, okay. Right. Yeah.
We have books in Birmingham.
Aye, all picture books.
So the Birmingham Library is the building in the distance there, or the building you're in?
That's the building we're on top of.
Ah, okay, right.
Down below is a really fantastic water feature that James has got behind him in this Zoom
Background.
this picture. It looks really nice.
Right.
And we went to a trip up there, and then we went inside, and inside is just magical. The lighting is amazing. James managed to capture some really good pictures of it. We might see them one day.
Yeah, if there's ever a competition theme of, you know, library or something. Oh, okay. Right, so this is the next one. Okay, so I just wonder whether it was supposed to be in a landscape orientation, perhaps, rather than a portrait orientation, only because I'm just looking at the angle at which we're looking at the flowers. And instantly, I don't sort of get the impression that I'm looking down onto them, whereas if it was flipped 90 degrees counterclockwise, it might sort of give the impression that you're looking down onto the tops of those flowers a little more. But it's an interesting picture in terms of the color, the composition. I like the way it fades out really quick at the bottom. We've got this very, very shallow depth of field almost all the way around these ones just on the left hand side, which again would have been at the bottom of the shot had it been rotated 90 degrees. So they would be at the bottom, you know, down, and then the ones above it would have been sort of out of focus. But very soft pastel-y colors, I really like that. No strong highlights, really, just good patterns, good detail, and almost a dreamy sort of wistful type sort of impression to it, which I think is, and I like the close crop just coming really tight. I will, if I may, just rotate it a couple of times just to see if I can get it. So I wondered whether it was whether it was supposed to be like that, perhaps, in which case you were sort of looking down onto those ones at the bottom, which are sort of the sharp point of focus. I'm not sure. We'll ask, but yeah, I really like the overall atmosphere of the shot. I really like that soft, dreamy effect. We've got a 3 at the bottom with the 2 yellow ones and the sort of bluey green one here, the centers. Yeah, I like the close crop. I like the way that we've got very little background. There's nothing to distract. And you sort of get that layered effect going back with the out of focus ones going further into the background. This one belongs to Hazel.
Yeah, I have to say I prefer it that way, but it is supposed to be the way it was presented.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
it was quite a heavy crop looking straight down into a thrift flower. And the 3 down the left-hand side were the most in focus. Right. And I quite liked the edge bit as well. So I left the edge in and just chopped most of the rest of it off. Yeah,
this green sort of background edge.
Yeah.
To the right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it works really well. I love those soft colours. They're really soft. So they're almost sort of, you could almost have the sort of silky sort of texture to them. You know, the flowers themselves. You've caught them really well. Really good choice of depth of field that you've chosen there and focal length. But yeah, really like that. I say I'm just not sure whether. You know,
yeah, I didn't think of rotating it, but I do prefer it the way you put it.
There, like that. Sorry, my mouse is sticky. Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, when I sent it, I thought it's not obvious that this is actually looking down on something, right. And that way does give it the downward perspective.
Yeah, because your eye's drawn to the bottom of the shot. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, okay, no, it's good. Thank you for that. So the next one is this one. So. Certainly now we've got a portrait where she's not looking down so much, and now it becomes about the camera angle and the camera's perspective, giving the viewer the sense of looking down. So quite a different way of doing the portrait, coming up quite high, shooting well above eye level, and then you looking down the model, which is an unusual sort of perspective for a portrait. But getting the model sat on the floor, coming in as a tight crop like that, because the angle at which you shoot the model, you know, can change the facial features and the way the body looks. But certainly coming in tight, cropping out quite a lot of the model to give this very tight perspective, I think works in this instance. I think the clothing works as well, and with the tattoos, it's sort of an interesting element to the shot. Very sort of muted lighting. You've got a little bit of shadow going on, fairly evenly lit, and then it becomes also about the background color and texture being in sort of harmony with the outfit. But I think it's all about that high viewpoint and giving that viewer this downward perspective on the model. It's something which you've got to be careful with those sorts of angles, and I think this one works really well. Also got to be careful that the nose is almost starting to intersect the cheek a little bit, but again, you know, it's always tricky if you're trying to give that sort of downward view. You're very limited on the angles that you can choose to shoot the model at. So, but yeah, I think you know, again, we've got that sort of corner to corner diagonal going on. But yeah, and as you would expect, it's Brian's, and the lighting is really well controlled. So catch light in the eye as well is tricky from that angle. Did you have the light really low to the floor, Brian? Or to the bed sort of height?
Yeah, she sort of sat on a bed, and the light was at the end of the bed, and I was sort of stood towards the corner. Yeah. And yeah, just looking down, and
yeah, absolutely.
Nothing more to add, really.
You don't see many shots from that sort of perspective, but an interesting thing to do. Yeah. Okay, so go to the next one. So that's the next one.
Okay, so we're definitely sort of looking down, or we're looking down-ish anyway, on some pencils nicely arranged there in this mug, for want of a better word. I like the way that the photographer has left the sort of front sort of pencil free, if you like, so we can see through to the pencils at the back. I think that works really well. I'm just maybe a bit of a higher angle, so you're looking down on it a little bit steeper to emphasize the fact that he's looking down. We've also got the pot there. It's sort of off center, but not quite on the third, and I'm just wondering if maybe if it was put on the center, it might make a bit more of an interesting shot. We've also got a lot of dead space above, so there's a possibility maybe of cropping in from the top left, getting rid of some of that space on the left and at the top, and you know, emphasizing the subject a little bit more.
I think lens choice can be important here as well, can't it? I think sometimes a wide angle lens can make everything look a little bit more angled, and that sort of false perspective of looking down.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see more of an angle on it myself, so it's more obvious looking down. But I mean, it is looking down, but I just like to see it emphasised more. Actually, that works better, I think, the tighter crop.
Something like that.
But even so, maybe just moving the camera up a little bit, so it's more looking down.
Yeah, almost sort of towards the ends of the pencils. Yeah. Interesting texture on the background as well. Whatever cloth that is that's been put on, it's quite interesting. Nicely lit as well. So this one belongs to Dave.
Yeah, it's mine again. At the beginning of lockdown, natural light from the right-hand side and LED light slightly from above.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it really. Guess I could have tried to go a bit higher, but I didn't want to be looking too much into the mug.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you'd have gone too high, you might have lost the sort of poppies on the mug.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
There's always a compromise, isn't there? It's always difficult to know exactly where to. Yeah, absolutely. But is that just a fairly textured cloth, Dave, that you use for the background?
I can't remember what I used. It's a bit of canvas.
Oh, canvas. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, because it looked like quite a chunky sort of. Yeah, it's quite an interesting pattern and all to it. Because the way you've lit it with that side light, it really brings out that texture, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. So we've now got the top 5. So I'm just going to need to close down this one a minute. So I'll just stop sharing the screen for a second because I'll need to just close down this folder, bring up the top 5, and bring up 5th place. And now share the screen. Sorry, I'm just having trouble with my mouse. So let's bring up this one and share. So your 5th place one is this one. So Chris looking down. Yeah. Picture titled Chris looking down. So obviously a candid shot. I'm guessing this wasn't posed and Chris didn't know he was having his picture taken at the time. Really like the point at which the shot was taken, with Chris's foot just hovering above that puddle, which adds a little bit to the narrative. I quite like the crop as well. You can see enough of the path going back into the background, curving around, leading you in back into Chris. So if as your eye wanders around the shot and your eye goes to the back, it sort of comes down the path again back to Chris. And the fact that he's carrying his monopod like that with the big lens on it at an angle that sort of sticks out into that bright area where the path is, I think helps with the composition as well, and it helps to fill some of that space on the right hand side. Yeah, I like the way, like I say, he's looking down. His attention is completely on what he's doing here, probably trying to miss the biggest part of the puddle. Yeah, and it's a really good crop. I like the way it finishes in the corners at the bottom. Chris occupies a fair amount of the frame, so yeah, thus sort of filling up this space with the sort of the trees and the sort of detritus in the background, and the fact that he's in complete contrast. You're wearing the blue jacket, the blue jeans, in contrast to the fawny colours in the background, really makes him stand out. It's really nice and sharp, highlights well controlled, and I think it's bang on theme. And this one belongs to James.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. This one belongs to, one sec, Ian.
Ken.
Ian.
Not mine.
No, it's Ian.
Yeah. I don't know what it's doing on the wall. I didn't think it was that great shot, but it was just a bit of fun. That was Sandwell Valley, the same place Ken took that magpie, and we just took great delight in Chris not having the appropriate footwear for when we took a walk around the lake.
Yeah,
the photo made me laugh.
Yeah, and I think possibly the fact that because we all know Chris, you all recognise the person in the picture. You're gonna engage with it, aren't you? You know, I think that sort of picture, if it's someone that you know, is going to get votes because you instantly know them. You know, I think it works well. But yeah, I almost think that in the next couple of seconds he's going to step down and disappear completely down into that puddle. You know,
I think he did too.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a perfectly timed shot, just at the right moment. Yeah, no, that's good. That okay. So your next one is that one.
Okay, so we've got a black and white shot. I'm just trying to work out what it actually is between in his hands because I can't make it out.
Like a rabbit or a hamster or something.
Rabbit.
Guinea pig.
Guinea pig.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay.
Small dog. Don't know.
Guinea pig.
Yeah. I
Guinea
suppose
pig, I think.
it's difficult to tell. I suppose to some extent what it is somewhat irrelevant because what you've got here, you've got this little boy so nicely framed, looking down at whatever it is, a hairy something, and you've got the sort of leg coming down at the bottom and framing it there, and then you've got the arm that sort of goes through and then leads you up towards the head, and then again you follow the eyes down to the subject. So it is keeping you within the frame. The thing that I don't like about it, having said that, is that whatever it is that he's looking at is indistinct, and you're trying to work out what it is that he's looking at. You know, other than that, you know, it's a nicely seen, nicely taken shot. I just wish you could actually see what it was that he was looking at, because I think then your eyes would engage with it more than they are doing.
Yeah. We'll ask the photographer. So this one belongs to Hazel.
Yeah. Even if it was the other way round, you'd probably still think it was a hamster or a guinea pig because it's only a 3-week-old puppy.
Ah, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, very fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I said to some extent it's immaterial, but in another way, I think it would have been better if you could actually see what it was, because your eyes would, my eyes follow his arm around to his head and then look down where he's looking, but I'm still looking and puzzling and trying to work out what the hell it is.
It's almost a shame.
Yeah. Well, it's a male, isn't it? He holds them the wrong way round.
Okay. Yeah, it's almost a shame the puppy wasn't looking up at him. You know.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. But so a good choice of black and white. So did you have fairly distracting colours, Hazel, or in the background?
Too much green, and I don't like the
green.
hydrangeas in the background either.
Okay. Yeah,
I did try to get it with aperture priority to blur the background, but for some reason my camera wasn't having any of that. And since he was only sat in my garden for about 3 minutes, so I didn't really have time to mess about.
No, sure. No, absolutely.
You might have had there is that it does look like quite a bright day. So if you're using aperture priority, you're probably not going to get as wide an aperture as you'd like, because the camera wants to shut down the aperture because there's too much light about to shoot with it wide open.
Yeah, you'd hit your shutter speed limit perhaps, and then it'd want to shut down the aperture. But and also the fact he's got a bright day and he's got what looks like a white t-shirt on.
It was, yes.
Yeah. So but the fact that you can see all the folds, and things in his t-shirt means you've kept all the details. So you've done well on the exposure. But
the white t-shirt's pretty helped though, because that's probably thrown a bit of. I mean, his eyes have gone quite shadowy, but that has pretty helped throw a bit of light back up into his face.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And if you can't separate your subject from the background with shallow depth of field, then you've certainly managed to get some separation by making it black and white. because his hair is darker than the bushes in the background, and the t-shirt is lighter than this side. So yeah, I mean it's a good choice, and it's on the wall. So yeah, well done.
Change.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, excellent. So third place will be this one. So definitely looking down, and we've now got a much tighter crop than some of the earlier ones that we saw looking down. So when we zoomed in, I think it was to Mullion Harbour, you could see there were people in the shot, but you had to zoom right in to see them. And I think, you know, we kind of thought in the end that just using the bottom half of that shot was stronger, because it was sort of more contained. It was more on theme, if you like. You were pulling the viewer towards the center, you know, the area where you were looking down, and you could see the people. Here, the photographer's kind of done that in the camera and zoomed in to pick out. I like the way that person there in the blue at the top. You've then got a sort of a building number of people towards the middle of the image, and then it sort of tails off again with this person at the bottom with the bike. And so you've almost got this sort of triangle here, you know, and then this triangular sort of shape at the bottom with this band of people across the middle, and then one down here. So you've got some quite interesting sort of shapes within, you know, within the image. The fact that then it's kind of in a grid with the different color paving slabs here, and then these markers in the road, the sort of the cat's eyes where they're on the road. It all sort of, it's a well seen shot. The fact that you've got the 4 bits of green in the corners, sort of everything is there to contain your view into the area where the people are, and that is quite obviously looking down on top of them. So yeah, I think it really does work for the theme.
I see we've got cyclists ignoring the arrows on the road as they do.
So that too.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's explore that further by asking Ken if you'd like to add any more to that.
I took several shots, and most people were ignoring the little arrows anyway. And I got the idea from a club member who helped me with it and stuff. It's Penzance looking over the top of sort of like Iceland.
Oh yeah, the wharf side.
Looking down as they go towards the car park.
Right. Yeah. And again, timing is absolutely key on this one, isn't it?
I took quite a few sort of like shots, and I went back about 3 times because the couple of times I went in, there was no shadows because it was all dark. And the one time I did go, when we went on the club evening, the sun had gone behind, so it was all dull there.
Yeah.
So you couldn't actually get any decent shots.
No.
So
no, sure.
A few weeks ago, I walked from Marazion into Penzance, took a few shots, and then walked back again.
Okay. Yeah. So persistence definitely paid off.
So who's the other member I need to give half the points to?
I can't disclose information like that.
No, this was actually one of my favourites. I think it's a brilliant shot.
Yeah.
I think you naturally, your eyes led through the image all the way through.
It is.
I'm just not sure about the traffic lights on the right hand side, but then you see the shadow of the light. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the reason I kept them in, because you see them on the right, and you also see them on the left as well.
Yeah.
And so you sort of like got more or less. That's why I left a little bit of green on the left hand side as well as the other bits of green. I couldn't sort of like, it was either one or the other.
Yeah, and I quite like the fact that the traffic light is in on the right, because it still sets the scene. It lets you know, it sort of puts everything in place, doesn't it? It makes the shot make sense because you can see it's a crossing then, you know, everything sort of ties in together. And my eye is sort of drawn from the cyclist at the bottom through the guy with the orangey, reddy, stripy shirt to the lady in the in the mustard coloured shorts, and then to the lady in the blue at the top. You sort of got this diagonal. They're, to my eye, they're the ones that stand out the most, and then the others sort of complement. Yeah, and I quite like the fact that apart from their clothing, a lot of the other colours are fairly muted. These paving slabs are fairly muted because they're in bright light. The greyness of the road is fairly muted because it's in bright light. And I find it just makes them stand out, especially the bits of blue that are in there. Yeah, I think it works really well. Well done, Ken. So that's third place. So second place is this one.
Okay, so we're looking up at looking down. The
Kite looking down. Where's that buzzer? Kite.
It's a kite. It's a red kite, that, isn't it? We've got the forked tail on it.
Yeah.
Is the giveaway, I think, isn't it? A buzzer,
Yeah.
the flat tail.
I can't see the string and the streamers.
One shot of the kite down.
Some nice detail there in the feathers, and the eyes look pretty sharp to me as well. He's got his sort of feet tucked up there under his tummy. That looks really nice, the way that that's been done. And I think the fact that it's actually on a slight angle, the wings are not horizontal in the frame, adds to it. And the fact that he's making eye contact with the photographer, or that's what it seems anyway, I think draws you into the image. You've got some nice lighting, which must have been quite difficult to achieve when you're shooting up like that, to get enough light under the wings to bring out the detail in the wings and to see the pattern of it. You've got a little bit of rim lighting as well around the top of the head and the can I call them shoulders? Anyway, you know the bit I mean.
Yeah.
And down towards the tail as well, which I think makes it really pop off the background. And the fact that the sky is totally cloudless and a sort of uniform blue as well, makes you focus on the bird. It's not distracting at all. You could have used this shot for the against the blue sky picture as well, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like that. It's a nice shot. It's nicely seen. It's nicely exposed, perfectly in focus. What's not to like about that?
I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition that as the viewer, you're looking up to meet the criteria of looking down, if you see what I mean. It was, I thought it was an interesting take on the theme of looking down. And this one belongs to John Marshall, who I don't think is online tonight. Are you online, John? No, I don't think I've seen him in the waiting room. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting, and I think it's pretty well sharp as well. If we zoom in, it's the sharpness of those eyes and that beak is incredible.
Got one eye bigger than the other.
So that's second place. So your winner this month for looking down is that one, which is definitely looking down. So again, we're back to the camera perspective of looking down onto this chap surfing, which is a really unusual perspective. Getting the camera that close above a surfer, unless you were sort of photographing from a drone or something, is quite an unusual perspective to see. So the fact that straight away you're giving the viewer an unusual perspective makes it quite engaging. That you don't normally see surfers from this angle, because you can tell he's not on the wave and you're looking across at him. I think just from the position that he's stood in, it looks like he's surfing in a straight line alongside, I don't know, a pier or something, perhaps, with the photographer still on top of the pier, maybe. I don't know. It's quite an interesting perspective. The detail in that water as he's cutting through the water, all of that, all those droplets and the sort of the disruption to the water is pin sharp. I like the fact it's in black and white. it's a very contrasty black and white, which I think adds a lot. It adds a lot to the detail, because that high contrast really brings out the texture in that water, and it also brings out all of the detail in the wetsuit. Absolutely pin sharp. Fill in the frame. You know, I like the way that the surfer is occupying a lot of the frame. He's kind of on the third vertically. The board is kind of on the third horizontally, and yeah, occupying most of the frame. There's a little bit of space for him to move into at the front here, but even the design on the board works in black and white, in that contrasty black and white as well. Very little negative space and very little sort of wasted space, you know, because the disruption to the water and the spray is filling up almost all of it. Just a little bit here, sort of setting the scene in this top corner. But your eye is drawn back to it all the time, and the more you look at it, the more you sort of engaged with that perspective. And this one belongs to James.
It does.
So where was it taken, James?
The pier at Newquay.
Oh, Newquay.
Harbour.
Ah, so they do surf right up almost alongside the pier, do they?
Well, no, me, Ken, and Mart and Ian went earlier in the year, and there was no surf at Thistral the day we went.
Right.
But they were surfing down at the harbour wall.
Right.
And Ian and Ken had a longer lens than me, so they were out thing, and then these guys started surfing the wall. And so I just got on top of the pier and started taking pictures.
Yeah, you can tell it's winter because he's got the hat, the gloves, the boots.
Well, actually, it was quite a nice day, but yeah, it was still cold, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. But so, have you had to crop that much?
I cropped it for a composition. That's it, I think.
Yeah, awesome. That is.
He was in shadow there as well, wasn't he? So that
he was,
quite,
yeah.
It was quite a tricky exposure to get as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he wasn't in the sun, no.
No, okay.
I think what you said to start with, Darren, you don't see photos looking down on surfers.
No.
Unless
no,
you've got a drone out there and stuff.
Yeah.
And he is on a wave.
Yeah, he was on a wave, yeah.
Yeah, because I imagine he's moving fairly quick there.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, because his board's fairly small, so unless he's got a move on, it's not going to hold his weight, you know. So
no. There was a couple of them doing it, and I took quite a few shots of them. But.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the way, because the wetsuit's wet, you get this shine on his back as well.
Yeah, so I brought it all out with like a bit of dodging and burning.
A bit of dodging and burning. Oh, okay, yeah, because that really starts to inform the shape. You can see that curve then to the back, which really helps. And it's those little nuances, those little highlights, which just help to sort of fill in all of the parts of the scene. It stops it all blocking up. You know, a black wetsuit can look just like a big black blob, can't it? But
it looks very dull in colour. So
sorry.
It looked very dull in colour.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so make it black and white, bit of dodge and burn, little highlight on the top there.
Well, you got the black against the white of the water, haven't you? So
yeah, absolutely, and against that board. Yeah, that's awesome. So if I go to the next one, you will see. Let me just click there. There's the wall.
Woo!
Yeah.
Someone needs to knock James off of first place. It's getting boring now.
It's like we're at the club now, looking at the pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least I'm on the wall.
Yay!
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's an interesting set of images, and hopefully for the end of September competition, we hopefully will be back at the club and looking at them on the wall.